Climbing is just, it's you against you. There's no competition like in a lot of sports. You don't win a game, you don't win points or whatever. It's you against the former you, It's 99% cerebral, which is more or less how I've lived my life. Climbing is problem solving. It's finding a way to get from point A to point B, and then to point C, and then to point D, and then, up the wall.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I speak with influencers from all over the world who are contributing to the common good in all kinds of interesting ways. Contributing to the common good in even the smallest of ways is one of the scientifically proven ways we can age with vitality and deep contentment. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, psychotherapist and fellow Zestful Ager. My goal is to share optimism about aging and introduce you to guests who will inspire you to live with zest. And to find out more about my podcast, my web courses, and my book, Not Just Chatting, How to Become a Master Podcast Interviewer, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. And while you're there, sign up for my weekly email newsletter, The Insider, where you will get behind-the-scenes looks at upcoming episodes and other fun tidbits. And if you love the podcast, I'd be grateful if you shared it with your friends. Our music is courtesy of Judy Banker. Find out more at judybanker.com. A big part of aging well is pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, taking ourselves on an adventure, and living without regret. And that's what I'm doing in May when I play tennis at the National Senior Games. Will I take home a medal? Nope. But I will meet tons of like-minded people and get to explore Fort Lauderdale and eat food that they don't have in Syracuse, New York, and I am excited. But today's guest takes getting out of our comfort zone to the extreme. The mother of extreme climber Alex Honnold, star of the Oscar-winning documentary Free Solo, decided to take up extreme sports in her 60s. At age 66, Dierdre Wolownick set a record of her own on El Capitan, becoming the oldest woman ever to climb that sheer rock face. A multi-talented woman in her own right, she proves that determination and grit can bring you to places that you have never imagined and even help heal a life that could have been full of emotional challenges. Welcome to the show, Dierdre.
Good morning, and thanks for inviting me.
I am so excited to speak to you on there's so many pieces of this that I am just thrilled to get a chance to talk to you about. And of course, I, like many, saw the film Free Solo. And the first thing I thought of as a mother, and I'm sure you've gotten this question before, is what were you doing when Alex first scaled El Capitan Free Solo without a rope or any kind of safety gear? What were you doing during that climb?
I was driving. I was driving up Highway I-5 between Sacramento and Portland, Oregon. No free soloist ever tells anyone that they're going to do a free solo. So I didn't know. Thank goodness I didn't know. Alex has done maybe 100 free solos in his life of climbing, and I did not know about any of them. And that's the nature of free soloing. A free soloist has to have their mind completely clear, focused. They don't want to know that, mom's home wishing they weren't up there.
Yeah, they had a piece of that in the film where he started out and it was just too chaotic and busy with the filmmakers.
Right. His mind wasn't clear enough, yeah.
And as he abandoned ship, how fascinating. But you did know, because there are great photos in your book about Alex as a little guy being on top of a bureau, you knew it was happening at some point.
Well, I knew that, climbing has always been his life. But climbing El Cap without a rope is such an outrageous thing to even think about. Even for all the elite climbers out there, they would never consider it. So no, I had no clue he was doing that. No clue whatsoever. I knew he was climbing on El Cap. He's always been working, in his words, I'm working on El Cap. He's always been working on El Cap for the last 10, 20 years. So no, I had no clue.
So you've done so many things professionally. You speak several languages. You've been a professor. You have had a very successful life as an adult. And you were curious, I guess, to find out more about what is my boy doing and why is it so captivating? Do you remember the decision and the discussion around, I think I might venture into this?
It wasn't really a discussion, except in my own head. I had watched him for years, and I had tried other things, outdoors with my kids. A few years prior to becoming a climber, I sort of fell into the world of long distance running. And, that happened, and it was terrific. And my kids were sort of responsible for that, kind of prodded me into it. And so, I did marathons and half marathons and stuff, and became sort of kind of an athlete. I never thought of myself as an athlete. I still don't.
You were more of an intellectual.
Yeah, exactly. Most of my life has been spent on sedentary activities or intellectual activities, whatever you want to call that. In my, conducting an orchestra, for example. That's there's nothing very active physically about that, or publishing books. And nothing, So I little by little became sort of kind of an athlete, and then Alex was home once with an injured arm, so he couldn't climb. And I had been seeing many articles and clips and stuff about him, about what he had been up to out there, and wild things he had done. And his friends would come through the house here, and they'd all sit around and chat about what they had just done, or were going to do, or where they were going, what gear they were going to use. And I didn't understand any of it. I tried. I asked him questions about, what does this mean? What does that mean? Mm-hmm. But you can't learn a language out of context. I've learned many languages in my life. I've taught 5 different foreign languages throughout my career as a teacher, and I speak more than that. And I know that you cannot really learn a language out of context. And I had never tried climbing, and he would explain these things to me. The difference between free solo and free climbing and trad climbing and sport climbing. To me, it was all just climbing. I didn't know. And I'm a linguist. I've been a linguist all my life. I don't like not understanding what's going on around me. So when he was injured like that, I asked him to take me to the gym, and just so he could show me how it works, what everything's called, how to tie in, how to put on the harness, which is not intuitive at all. And so I figured I'd go there. I'd spend half a day. I'd go up half a wall maybe, because I knew in my heart of hearts that I was afraid of heights, like most people.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
This is in California?
Well, I grew up in New York City. And so
I see.
So I'd been up many, many skyscrapers and tall buildings. And I knew
enough to know.
I knew that if I looked over the edge of any building like that, or whatever tower, my stomach would roil, and I knew I couldn't do that. But we went, and he showed me how to tie in, and he belayed me. He controlled my rope for me as I climbed, and as it turned out, I climbed the first wall no problem, all the way up to 45 feet to the top, and I was able to turn around and look down and smile at him, and there was no fear. Not no fear, but what I learned was that once you tie in, once the rope is attached to your harness, and I knew I had the strongest climber in the world on the other end of my rope, that fear goes away, because you can't fall.
I see.
Because when people say I'm afraid of heights, it's not the height itself they're afraid of. It's falling off that height. And so when that goes away, the fear goes away. And so I discovered that day that I loved it. I did like 11 or 12 climbs that day, which is unusual. It's a lot.
I see. What did you, I mean, this may sound so basic, but I'm just so curious what it is that you love. What's the experience? I mean, I could talk about tennis until people just, tear up with boredom and explain why I love it.
Right,
But
right.
some of it, of course, has no words.
Exactly.
What for you? What just connected with you that was like this is
Oh, so
perfect.
yes, so many things. For outdoor climbing, I mean, I didn't start outdoors. I started in a climbing gym, the one he took me to, the one where he trains when he's home. I still go there to train, climb with friends. So I started indoors. I stayed indoor climbing for about half a year, more or less. And the outdoor climbing, I'll start there because it's the most visual. The outdoor climbing is amazing because climbers go to the most outrageous places and they get the most
Mm,
outrageous views of the world,
mhm.
of the scenery, the topography. It's just incredible where they go, and the tourists can never see these places. The
Right.
only way to see them is by climbing up there and being there. Like El Cap, for example, El Capitan. I mean, you can't imagine what it's like to be hanging on the side of El Cap, like 2,000 feet up. You
Mhm.
just cannot imagine that.
Is there a spiritual aspect to this?
Absolutely, yeah.
Can you yeah, I'm just so curious. So, can you talk a little bit if you can find the words?
Yeah, well, climbing is an unusual sport in that, like different from any other sport I've ever tried. I've always been active and out there skating and bicycling and stuff, but climbing is just it's you against you. There's no
Mm,
competition like in a lot of sports. You don't win a game, you don't win points or whatever. It's you against the former you. And it's 99% cerebral, which is more or less how I've lived my life.
mm,
Climbing
mm.
is problem solving. It's
I see.
99% cerebral. It's finding a way to get from point A to point B, and then to point C, and then to point D, and then up the wall. And it's a lot of people say, "Oh, I could never climb. I have no upper body strength." Well, I didn't either,
Hmm.
and I still don't really, not a lot. I mean, I can't do a pull up. I can't. I can do baby girl push ups, but
Right.
yeah, but I'll never probably be able to do a bona fide pull up from the ground, arms outstretched. I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. I've tried and tried and tried. But climbing is mostly foot propelled. Your feet push you up, not your arms pulling you up.
Hmm.
And mostly for women, especially women who are less upper body endowed. They don't have the upper
Hmm.
body strength. Most women, um, you can work on it and get better, but the obvious difference between the male form and the female form, the upper body is weaker and smaller, but that's sort of a bonus because that forces women to become more strategic, to learn different
Mm.
ways to accomplish the same things without wearing out the upper part of your body.
I see.
So yeah, it's been a real learning experience in so many ways. But that's really what I love about it. It's mostly cerebral, and it's the accomplishment is in having figured out the problem. Like when the difference between bouldering and climbing, rock climbing, is up a wall or a mountain. It
Okay.
involves ropes and a partner. Bouldering is just you on the rock. Bouldering
Mm.
is like what Alex did on El Cap, but small, short, just a few feet up and then down.
Mm. Hmm.
So I forgot where I was going with this.
Well, I think we started with is it spiritual, and then you were talking about the many aspects.
Right, the problem solving. In bouldering,
Mm.
they call each bouldering challenge, if you will, they call those problems. A bouldering problem, a boulder problem. Which problem did you do today? They go. That's what
I
they call it.
see.
Because your goal is to figure out, the best way to position your body, the best way to use your feet, use your toes, use your heel, whatever, to move upward. And so it's not just brute force. A lot of young guys who try climbing the first time, they wear out immediately because they try to pull themselves up the rock or up the wall. Usually in a gym this happens. And that's not the key at all.
I see. I never would have thought of that, but now I can understand it's more subtle than
Oh,
that.
yeah, a lot more subtle. Exactly.
It's no secret that everyone's feeling pretty restless and unsettled right now. Our lives are upside down, and the future is feeling pretty uncertain. But if you're anything like me, organizing my stuff can help me feel a little calmer. It's something I can do to help me feel a little more in control and in charge of my own life. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And Too Much Stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used up. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical, it's realistic, the lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. And so I know that you did more than one climb, and on your 70th birthday, you did a special climb.
Yep. Well, back in 2017, I became the oldest woman to ever go up El Cap, up the face. And that was a real, a technical climb that we did on the west side of El Cap. Alex did the technical climbing part of it, and I jumarred up the rope. I climbed the rope. My feet were on the wall, but my hands were on the these things that clip onto the rope, and you can slide them upwards and keep going upwards. So, I technically didn't climb it, as climbers call it, but I did climb it as a dictionary definition, So the oldest woman to climb El Cap. When we did that climb, it took us about 13 hours to get up, which is unusual because it usually takes most elite climbers like 4 days. But when you go with Alex holds the speed records on everything, everything all over the world. So when you go with him, you go really fast. And so we did. So we got up there in 13 hours. We started hiking up to the base of the climb at 5:30 in the morning, but we didn't start climbing until about 7. And then, so by the time we got to the top, it was pitch dark. So I didn't get to see the top. All I saw was, my little cone of light from my headlamp as we walked, because you have to walk like a mile and a half across the top of El Cap to get to the route that takes you down. So, because all the climbs, there are like 105 climbs up El Cap.
I see.
And everybody who goes up any of those 105 climbs comes down the same route. They all come down the same way.
Okay.
So I didn't get to see the top. I didn't get to see the views from the top. I didn't get to see the top. I was missing part of the experience, a valuable part of the experience for me. He's been up there a million times, but I didn't know what was up there. So this year when I was thinking about my 70th, my 70th was coming up. What did I want to do? It was COVID. I couldn't have a party. I couldn't go into a fancy restaurant with friends because of COVID. So what did I want to do? Well, I wanted to see the top of that, darn it. So I convinced some friends to help me out, some young friends, climbing friends, and they all agreed this would be a great idea. And so I had like three or four young'uns, the young'uns I call them. They carried a lot of, because I wanted, once I had made up my mind to do it, I decided I wanted to sleep up there and see what the sunset was like from the top, and see what the sunrise was like from the top.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that requires a lot of stuff. So all the young'uns, they carried these huge bags called
your Sherpas.
Exactly. They were my Sherpas, my American Sherpas. And so they carried, the sleeping bags and the mattress pads and the food, the water, mostly water. Water is really heavy. And but I mean, we all carried, and there were a total of 11 of us who went up that day. 4 of them were the helpers, the Sherpas, whatever, the porters, and my friends, and the others were people who, friends of mine who wanted the experience but couldn't do it on their own, So, so this was an opportunity for them to get up to the top of El Cap, up the face instead of just hiking, because there are hikes where you can get up to the top too. But this is quite different, a lot more strenuous. So.
And is this when you had champagne and chocolates?
Yes. Unbeknownst, I had brought a little tiny. I had brought a little tiny, personal sized bottle of champagne in my backpack just for me, because I knew it was my birthday and I knew my friends were coming and it was going to be a long day. Unbeknownst to me, my friend Garrett, in my main training partner for all that time, he carried up 2 or 3 bottles of champagne, and that's really heavy.
Yes.
And glasses to go, to drink it from, and even cake, my little cakes for my birthday.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they were so good to me. They were just so wonderful to me. And I'll never top that as a birthday party.
No, I'm afraid not.
No, it's downhill from here. Yeah.
And it sounds like your life really has changed, not only because you've accomplished this amazing thing, but you have this community now, and it sounds like it's a lifestyle. It's a whole lifestyle you're taking on. It's not just on the weekend I'll do a little climbing between my errands.
No, climbing is definitely a lifestyle if you take it on. Yeah. They call it lifestyle climbing.
Oh, I see. And so did it feel like when you first started getting involved in this and loved it and adopted it that your identity changed in some way?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, in many ways. Yeah, I never, in my wildest dreams, would have imagined me doing these things 15 years ago, when I was starting to think about retiring. This is not anything I would ever have dreamed of for my retirement. But it happened, and I embraced it, and it's wonderful. It's a learning experience from start to finish every time you go climbing.
And you've been very honest about in your book and blog and all that. Your childhood was difficult. Family life was difficult. Your husband was difficult. The divorce was quite painful. Then he died. I mean, it has not been a breeze for you. And I'm wondering how climbing and being an extreme athlete, has that helped you heal from?
Oh, yes.
How so? Can you reflect on that?
Well, climbing, to some extent running as well, but especially climbing, is 100% focus. While you're on the wall trying to figure out a climb, you cannot think about anything else. You really can't. If you do, you fall off and you lose it. You won't finish your climb. It's 100% focused. The only time in my life, which 2 different ways that I've experienced this kind of focus was at the piano and when I was painting.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about the zone, getting in the zone, getting in the focus.
Flow state.
Flow state, whatever. There have been different names for that over the decades, but you get into this endeavor, whatever it is. For me, it's often piano. Like I said, painting. I haven't done enough painting in the last 2 decades to warrant talking about it. But you start doing it, whatever it is, like climbing or piano, and all of a sudden it's 3 hours later, and you didn't notice. That is the antidote to all stress. It really is. You get in this zone, and then 3 hours later, you feel completely at peace. It's hard to describe, but people are looking constantly for an antidote to the stress of everyday life, to the stress of all the unusual stressors in everyday life, like death, like divorce. I had it all for like 6, 7, 8 years. I had so much stress going on, death after death after death, and being executor of estates and remodeling houses and dealing. Oh, it was crazy. I was doing the work of like 6 people, and alone, with no help. And when I would get on the wall, all of that would just slough off. And I would just...
It's different than a vacation.
Oh, much, much different.
Very different. You can't be... It's like your brain... I think what you're saying is there's no room to worry. There's no room to start future, what they call future tripping. Well, what happens if this one and that one doesn't, you don't have the luxury because your brain is absolutely, it's
taken. It's completely
taken.
There's no room for anything else. And that's not true on a vacation. A lot of people make that mistake. I'm going to get away from all this stress. I'm going to go on to Hawaii or whatever it is. And that doesn't do it because you take it all with you. But when you're on the wall or, pounding out a Chopin etude or whatever it is on the piano, you can't take it with you. And so it just sloughs off. You leave it behind you and you just go. And that's one thing I love about climbing. And the other thing, of course, is you're in the beautiful outdoors, The
healing of nature.
Exactly.
I imagine you see some beautiful raptors and other birds when you're there.
Yes.
From a different vantage point.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's amazing to be way, way up, hanging on a rope and watching the birds swooping around below you, way below you. It gives you a different perspective. It really does.
Mm-hmm. For women who are in an interesting in-between time, and clients that I see in therapy really coming to this what now period of life. I've taken care of my family, my job, all of this, and now my kids are launched. I may or may not be with my partner, and I have no idea what the next step is. What would you say to them?
The very most basic thing is to start, if you haven't yet, start writing in a journal. Journaling is like the key. Journaling is like your own private shrink. 24/7. It really is. It's your own private shrink. Doors always open, always ready. And you can figure out anything in a journal. Anything. That I can't stress that enough. I would not have survived a lot of the stuff I went through without my journal.
It's interesting. I actually did my thesis on journal writing, and I'm sure you probably are familiar. There's a whole brain cognitive thing that happens in terms of having to organize your thoughts, also being able to go back and say, oh, there's a pattern here. I mean, it's not just pleasant, it's deeply therapeutic.
It is deeply therapeutic. And there's a connection of physical and I don't know the terms. I'm not a clinician. I'm not a therapist of any kind. But there's a direct link between your brain and your hand as you write. I mean, there have been studies done about this. To encourage students to write in school.
And different than being at a keyboard?
Totally different. Totally
Real?
different.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
you should check into that. It's totally different brain experience and mind experience. Very different. And different things happen as you write these words out. You can do it by keyboard too. It's almost the same, but doing it with a pen or pencil or on paper is what's the word? It forces your brain to slow down because you can't write as fast as you can think. I can almost type as fast as I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a little different that way, but not that much. But if you start by using a pen, it will help you to convince your mind to slow down so that you can organize your thoughts. And at the beginning it will be sloppy and it will be messy and it will be chaos. But little by little, it will start to happen, guaranteed.
If we looked, or if when you look at your journal, do you see a progression that makes sense now when you go back? Does it all, or can you connect the dots?
What do you mean by progression?
Kind of like, oh, I didn't know it then, but I really was yearning for adventure, or I was yearning for something. I didn't know what it was, and it would turn out to be this thing. But could you are there undercurrents?
Sort of. I would call that an undercurrent. I mean, more often than that, I think, is going back and understanding who you were then. Not necessarily, what you're going to become, but understanding who you were then and whether that was good or bad or indifferent or what that led to. I think that's the most valuable part of rereading your journal.
Maybe having some compassion for yourself.
Exactly. A lot of us don't. Yeah. A lot of us don't. So, yeah.
You have a book that you've written that's all about your life and your all of these exciting challenges. And how can people reach you?
Well, the book is called The Sharp End of Life. The sharp end is a climbing term because the book starts and ends on El Cap. So you will get a good idea reading it of what it's like to be up there. I come to climbing from a totally different viewpoint than like people like my son. Climbing as a mom is totally different than climbing as a young stud. Totally different. Totally different. And so the book is called The Sharp End of Life. You'll find out why as you read it. You can get it anywhere you buy books. Amazon. I was, I think, number 11, I think, on Amazon for a while. So it's picking up. The Sharp End of Life. Barnes & Noble, anywhere you buy books, but Amazon is the easiest.
Yes. And you have a blog as well.
Yeah. The blog predates the book by a lot. The blog is just deirdrew.us. The blog is a collection of essays from my life, from my experiences, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
You did some foraging, I saw.
Yes. My daughter is a forager. My daughter is training now to be a botanist.
Oh, really? She's going to love my interview with Susan Twite. That's her whole thing she is out in Colorado and is a botanist and a writer and a forager, extreme. So, well, Dierdre, it was so great talking to you, and learning about your life and what brought you to be a climber and how it's changed you and how you have become the ultimate zestful ager.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I would say. And I wish you all the best. It just sounds so exhilarating.
It is that.
And I can only imagine.
Well, you should try it someday. Then you won't.
I should. There are some climbing walls in the Syracuse area, and it has gotten to be popular. And in fact, a guest I had 4 years ago, Mary Giel, is a climber. She goes around. She was a professor at Syracuse University, and she and her husband go all over the world climbing. So I'm definitely going to link her so she can hear you. I'm sure she'll be thrilled.
Yeah, yeah. I do a lot of speaking engagements at climbing gyms.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can imagine.
It's always well received. Not so much during COVID, but that'll come back.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and really appreciate our conversation.
Thanks for having me. Been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.